Hey, it's Darren, and I want to talk about a challenge that you are going to face in any capacity as a leader when you are leading others, when you're leading a team, when you're standing up for what you believe in as a change maker, as someone who is inspiring others to make a meaningful difference in the world. And that's criticism, dissent, outright refusal to agree with your stance on an issue or an idea or the way in which you're leading others. So I was reading something by Adam Grant in his Substack, Granted, and I just want to read what he wrote. People who can't handle criticism are unfit to lead. Weak leaders fear dissent as a threat to their power. They silence their critics to shield their egos. Strong leaders welcome dissent as an opportunity for growth. They silence their egos to learn from their critics. So, okay, I think that's a bit extreme and it's lacking a lot of nuance. Immediately, I was thinking perhaps to some of the things we're seeing happening in the world right now politically, and it's clear who the people are who cannot handle dissent. But for everyone else, for the majority of the people, yourself, myself, when you, let me back up for a second. This is important. This is my philosophy. This is my core message about leadership, that every time you stand up for what's right, thinking critically, leading with integrity, and cultivating dignity, you create real change and advance equity for our common humanity. Now, this is where criticism comes in. What if someone disagrees with you? What if someone disagrees with, one aspect of something you're sharing? Now, this is about how we feel. And as human beings, we feel in relation to how we perceive what we're doing, and we feel or respond or react in relation to how other people perceive what we're doing, what we've said, what we've committed to. So I want to go back to this question of Adam Grant saying, if you can't handle criticism, you're unfit to lead. And what does that exactly mean? So, if you can you think of a time when you were recently criticized for your leadership? I've put together four categories for the way in which you might respond, the way in which you might feel as a result of being criticized for your leadership. So, number one would be that maybe you feel attacked or on the defensive. Number two, you're uncertain or unsure. Number three, you feel unrecognized or unvalued or undervalued. And finally, number four, maybe you feel stupid or ashamed. So I want to briefly examine each of these four to help you see where you think you might fit, if you've experienced all of them, what that means, and how you could feel or act differently. Because, like I've said already, if you're a leader in any capacity, you are going to come up against resistance, dissent, and criticism. And people who plain and simply do not like you, which will also potentially prompt an emotional response, right? Now, to make the blanket statement, if you can't handle criticism, you're unfit to lead, seems unfair. It's like I said, it's not nuanced enough. It doesn't go into enough detail. It would exclude the majority of the people on this planet uh, who are able to feel something as a response to someone disagreeing with them or even getting upset in disagreement with how they feel. And this is an aspect of leadership that requires self mastery in the sense of self-awareness. There's nothing wrong with being challenged by criticism as a leader. What's really important is how you respond, how you continue to show up and lead and inspire others and help people, guide people along the way in the direction that you are trying to establish, not in a dictatorial sort of way, not in a my way or the highway kind of sense, but if your role is very much to lead others, perhaps you're in a corporate position, where and when do you change the way in which you lead so you can keep people on the path in the direction that you need them to go while acknowledging and recognizing the uniqueness of how they are experiencing your leadership and the ability to look inward and determine how it is you're going to show up and lead others. When you can do that, that's demonstrating your humanity. That's demonstrating your self-awareness. That's demonstrating your ability, just like this other person, to feel. It's just a question of, where along the ladder is the feeling or the emotion? Is it just a meh, okay, I can do this? Is it, I don't like how this person is leading me and I'm being a little bit annoyed or reactive? Or is it somewhere closer to the top where the person is verbally dissenting and criticizing, and having the courage in the moment to stand up for what they believe is right? And that's just the bigger question. Who's right? It's not about right or wrong necessarily in an ethical, humane leadership. It is about a commonality or a community, an agreement of a collective deciding to go forward as closely, as tightly as possible on what they believe would create the most effective, most efficient, and meaningful change. So the first one, feeling attacked and feeling on the defensive. Where does that come from? I know my own history, things that I dealt with as a child. When I get criticized, I certainly feel attacked. That's sort of the immediate trigger. But I've experienced this enough times now for me to recognize that that trigger is probably always going to be there. But instead of it being this big and near impossible to handle, it's like this big now. It's there. It means for me, I have to take a breath. I have to recenter myself. I have to make sure I don't cross the red line, the threshold of having self-control and going into an emotional reaction, feeling like fight, flight, or freeze. So knowing that is key. Feeling that is not right or wrong. It's just in the moment, depending on who the person is and how they say what they say in response to what you've done, right? Every situation is going to be unique. If 10 people criticize you, it's likely that your reaction is going to be different 10 times. Maybe it'll be similar, but it is not going to be exactly the same because the words each of those 10 people use, the emotional response each people are showing up through or with to express their criticism is going to have a different resonance with you. Number two, feeling uncertain or unsure. That's actually really good. Now, this could mean at the extreme end a lack of confidence in your ability to lead or what it is you know and what it is you're imparting. Or it could be that you've looked back at what they've criticized, you're looking inward at that thing that they're criticizing and thinking, am I missing something? Did I make a mistake here? Did I do this in an unskillful way? Is there something I'm completely ignorant, unaware of in what I wrote or said or did or asked for that I can correct? Number three, unrecognized or unvalued. This is an interesting one because this goes back to what Adam Grant was saying in the beginning, dependent on, let's say, the ego. I'm right, you're wrong. Could be the extreme end of feeling unrecognized and unvalued, where you're not leading in that case, you're trying to tell people what to do. You're domineering as opposed to leading with, leading from behind, and walking alongside. Now, unrecognized or unvalued could mean that maybe you're in a leadership role that's extremely challenging in the sense that you've come up the ladder, or in that you're new in a leadership role, and perhaps other people are truly not recognizing the value that you're bringing because they themselves, in their leadership, haven't really checked in with themselves and how they are responding to others. This is a mutual two-way street at all times for the kind of leadership I'm talking about and espousing to make a change for the common good. So how do you deal with that one? That's going to require conversation. That's likely a one-on-one conversation after you've done some of the work to determine, has this person actually disrespected or devalued me? And if so, what's the conversation I can have with this person to first try and understand where they're coming from, and then to help them understand why it is you might be feeling the way that you're feeling. Finally, feeling stupid or ashamed. That again could likely be triggers from childhood. And I don't want to say that all things are triggers from childhood or from trauma, for example, but feeling stupid or ashamed will depend on how the person criticizes you, how the person speaks to you. At the extreme end, I know of some individuals I've worked with who have said things like, well, you need to buck up, be tough, so that you can handle the criticism. And if you can't handle the criticism, then just get out. That's not a very helpful approach and automatically disqualifies a lot of people based on this hierarchy, this assumption for a particular kind of leadership that is about power and domineering versus collaboration and community effort and making a change for the common good. So I'm not saying this is a perfect category of 4 ways to feel in response to criticism. There are certainly many other ways of looking at this. But I want to end up here and invite you to consider either something recent, or perhaps you've got an experience that still bugs you, something that really challenged your leadership, a time where you were criticized that really threw you off. If you can think back to that without it getting you too upset or pissed off or frustrated or angry, what do you think you were feeling? Looking back at that situation now, how would you handle yourself, manage yourself differently? What would you seek to understand about yourself or improve so that you could lead in a calmer, more confident, empathetic, and compassionate and understanding way, so that you would be open to criticism, but without feeling like there was a need to defend your point of view or to have to stand up for what you think is right. Which leads me to just a new idea that just popped into my head right now. There's this aspect of standing up for what you think is right doesn't mean that you are right. It's a funny little word, right. What is right? It's a very strong belief, but if we don't have the deepest discernment about why we believe this is right, if we haven't done our homework, to get us to that point about all the variables about why we think what we're doing is right, we are absolutely going to feel the stab of criticism because we won't have the ability to explain ourselves. And explaining is another form of dialogue or communication. If you can explain why you think you're right, or another phrase, why you believe this to be true or the best path forward, if you can't do that, you're going to feel one of these undesirable emotions, maybe feeling uncertain or unrecognized or stupid or attacked. Whereas if you can explain yourself, you are coming from a place of feeling certainty in your leadership, of recognizing that you have a direction that you're taking that can sometimes require course correction if you go a little bit off the path, but you are also being fully accountable for what beliefs you hold to be true. And ultimately, you are then leading in a way that frees people the freedom to create a better solution, that meaningful change, that impactful difference that you want to see in the world. So I'd love to hear what you think about what I've shared here today. And if you're feeling confident and courageous enough to share an experience with me of how you were challenged, how you were criticized in leadership, how it made you feel, and how you might handle that situation now, please share in the comments. And if you have enjoyed what you've experienced here today, share this video with someone else. And if you want to talk about leadership, criticism, challenges that you're facing, drop me a message and I'd be happy to set up a time for us to meet for a strategy call. Take good care.